Over the last few years, I've seen an interesting shift that has happened, and maybe you have too. If you go to Walmart, Target, Best Buy, you can actually buy vinyl records now. And that's kind of odd. Vinyl is back and it's kind of mainstream, and it's kind of been a weird thing to see happen because I'm kind of an old soul. I've collected vinyl for about 16 years now. And when I started, it was either like flea markets or eBay was where a lot of times I would find vinyl records. And for years, I had a rule that I didn't spend over $10 on a record. And it's been interesting though to see this shift to where now I can go into Target and buy the latest Ed Sheeran album or whatever's out there that just came out, and it's on vinyl. That's odd. Why is that odd? Well, it's odd because in a world of literally every song that you can think of is streaming on Spotify, and for some reason people are willing to take their hard-earned money and spend 10, 20, 30, $40 on vinyl records. Why is that? Well, I think that people are actually looking for substance. We spent a lot of time trying to create a life that had zero friction. And it kind of ended up being a hollow victory. And what we realized is that friction actually might have been what maybe gave a little bit of meaning to our lives. And so throughout that, which by the way, if you're new here, this is not a vinyl channel. This is a woodworking channel, and we talk a lot about woodworking here. So I'm going to get there. But here's my point. My point is that my house is full of older things. Things like vinyl. Things like brass knickknacks and vintage furniture. A lot of this is thanks to my wife's also love for things of old like this too. But we enjoy those kinds of things because they do have substance. Because they've lived an entire life before we ever even got to have it in our home. Some of the things that are in our home are 40, 50, 60 years old. And we get to have them and enjoy them and see the craftsmanship and the intentionality that was put into them. So we find that astonishing, and we love everything about it. And my wife is awesome at finding the coolest, best deals on a lot of these things. We've bought furniture and we've bought tables, and I build a lot of furniture, but there are still things that we find sometimes and we just love. And so we will buy it vintage or antique or at an estate sale. We bought a table one time, and it's still in our dining room today. It's a table that we bought it for $35 off of Facebook Marketplace. Showed up in a Tractor Supply parking lot and bought it. Didn't ask a lot of questions. It was a little sketch. I kind of feel like they might have stolen Nana's table and sold it to us. I don't know. Maybe they needed money for God knows what. But we didn't ask a lot of questions. We just loaded it up and hit the road because it was a good table, and we've used it for years. We refinished it. And the beauty of it is that it's solid wood. It is actual wood. And so with that, if you get a scratch on it, if the kids scratch it up, whatever it is, it's something that can be fixed and refinished. Now, the flip side of that is that a lot of places that you go to buy furniture, like a furniture store, those places, it's not that way. It is some kind of a wood product with a veneer wrapped around it. And so the first time that you get a gouge in it or something, it's kind of trash. It's very hard to fix those kinds of things because they're not made of the right kinds of things. And when the people that make those kinds of things make them, they look at them and they ask the question and they say, what's the absolute cheapest thing that I can put in this that will achieve the look or the result that most people want, but will also maximize my profitability? What is that thing? That's what we want to do. What's the cheapest hardware we can slap in this? But as makers, as creators, as woodworkers, we look at things and we say, what is the thing that I can do to make this stand the test of time? What can I do to make this have real value, real strength. See, I'm not just trying to simply maximize my profitability. I'm actually trying to create something that 50 years from now, people will look at and they will marvel at and wonder, how did somebody take the time to make something like this? The way that we look at a lot of things today, because a lot of that craftsmanship is slowly starting to dwindle. It's actually becoming a luxury to have things that years ago was just kind of normal for everybody to have, was for you to have something that was built and was actually made to last. There was no how easy can we just build something and slap it together and throw it in a flat pack box and send it out on the Amazon truck and get it to somebody. That didn't exist. It wasn't that way. And the thing about it is that even as a maker, when I first started out, I was very hard on myself because there were a lot of mistakes that I made. A lot of things that I did wrong. And I look back at the way that I built some things, and I know that. But even those things that I built then, when I didn't exactly know all of the correct ways to do things, most of those things are better than the things that you can go into a furniture store and buy today. Because they were actually built structurally sound. Because even if I didn't know all of the perfect ways to do everything, I did know how to be able to put something together in a way that was not going to come apart. That's huge. It's interesting to me to think that the stuff that people bought from me 10, 15 years ago, when I was building things to sell, those things, people are still having dinner on some of those tables that I made. Even if it's not the original person that I sold it to. It's gotten moved on to somebody else. It's gotten sold to somebody else. That's what I want. I want people to be able to enjoy what I make and create. I want to be able to have a legacy with that, even if I don't get to have the credit for it. It's interesting for me to know that people are getting value and joy out of those things. And that's a refreshing thing because we live in a world that is so disposable. And we created this world that had so much instant gratification and so much disposability that now when we see something that has substance and life and value and time and effort put into it, it's something that is mind-blowing to a lot of people. And as makers, as creators, we look at things and we say, I am not going to spend every night when I come home from work seeing how many movies I can watch on Netflix. Instead, I'm going to spend my time creating something. I'm going to build something of substance and of value. See, that's the thing now that is very different. Most people can appreciate what we build. Very few people will actually take the time to actually learn the skills to do what we do because it's hard to do. Even if you're starting out on your journey, you go, man, I'm not very good. It doesn't matter. Do you know why? Because even at your worst, you're light years above most people because most people are never even going to start. That's the difference. You have a intrinsic worth and value in the things that you're doing and the things that you're creating that most people can only dream of. This past Christmas, we hosted, and it was a great time, and had family over. And my wife's grandparents, they came up and they saw this 16-foot wall of built-ins that I had built a year or so back. And they were blown away. I could tell the way that they talked about it. They were very impressed. And not because I had done some miracle, but because they knew the value of a 16-foot wall of built-ins. And all of the cool little antiques and brass and knickknacks and books and all the things that my wife has decorated them with that she's picked up from antique shops and flea markets and all of the different things. They know the value of that because they've seen a time in their life over the years, they've watched that craftsmanship dwindle. And they've watched it change to where people no longer take the time to do that. Because a 16-foot wall of built-ins is going to be pretty hard to buy in a flat pack box. I'm not saying you can't do it. It probably exists. And it might kind of look okay. I don't know. I would sure hate to try to put it together. But the thing is, they've seen a time and they've watched craftsmanship change and dwindle and go downhill over the years. And so they're able to appreciate that. And we talked about that. We talked about how craftsmanship is changing. How nobody's making a clawfoot table anymore because it takes craftsmanship and work. I can't even do that kind of stuff. That scroll work and all that kind of stuff. I marvel at that stuff. But it doesn't mean that the things that I build have less value because I'm contributing in my own way. And maybe you're not a woodworker. Maybe you're a quilter. Maybe you make pottery. Whatever that thing is for you, you look at it through a different lens, and you're looking at it hopefully through that same lens like we talked about, where we say not, how can I figure out a way to make this as possibly as cheap as possible and just shove the cheapest things into it that I can possibly do and maximize my profit, but instead, what can I do to make this last? What can I do to make this have an absolute legacy? See, that's what sets us apart. That's what sets us apart from most everybody else. You're creating things and you're building things that most people, they'll never even, they can't even fathom it. When I tell people sometimes the things that I'm doing, I can tell that they're like, what? It blows their mind. Because I want to create something that has a lasting impact. And so what I want to encourage you in is that if you're watching this and you struggle with feeling like maybe you just don't, your stuff that you make isn't that great. We all have imposter syndrome. It's a real thing. I want to encourage you to remember how much further along you are than most people. Just the mere fact that you're learning this skill, whatever it is, puts you far beyond everybody else. But here's what I really want to know. I want to know what's that thing that you have in your home. The thing that you just absolutely love. Maybe it's a vintage item. Maybe it's something you made yourself. Maybe it's a brass knick-knack. Maybe it's something that a grandparent handed down to you. I want to know what that thing is. Let me know down in the comments below. I appreciate you guys hanging out, and we'll catch you in the next one.